Imagine that you have blown up a building and you were a doctor, and then somehow your recovery goes so great that they're like, you know what, we need to get this lady on the air. She needs to be influencing minds.
What the hell,
Let's get into it.
Melrose Maniacs, thanks for joining us now on the spoiler bonus of Melrose Madness for the episode that is Season 1, Episode 11, A Promise Broken.
Oh, only the one?
My voice went up. Yes, A Promise Broken. It was weak sauce, but that's not what we want. We are here, I'm Wayne, this is Lisa, and we are here to talk about, first of all, I think Kimberly? 1, 2, 3. Kimberly, yes? No?
You know what? Absolutely. I would love to really get into Kimberly's introduction here.
Yeah.
I believe we had met her before briefly.
But
it was just a brief.
My convince is there was a different extra that was red-haired who was driven out of the room by the chili dog fuck scenario, but that was not Marcia Cross. Which, by
the way, I want to imagine it was Marcia Cross. I want to imagine it was Kimberly going, "This is what I'm up against." Wow. Let me just throw this curly thing into a bun and get to work. Oh, wow. That is amazing. So Kimberly enters right when they kill that baby off. So you immediately know that we're going to have some great shenanigans with Michael and Kim. Looking back, Michael's probably did not realize how overtly he's like, by the way, I'm probably going to cheat on you with this woman who is absolutely he basically says she really saved me.
Yeah, it's hard not to live in that moment of between probably and honey in the
and Jane just
bonkers.
It doesn't register. I love it.
No, it is it given that evidence of how deeply damaged their link is, it's almost a retcon in terms of all of the just stupid things that became plots before.
Well, you know what? I feel like the bonus thing is a fun place to really get into the fact that, again, we are reminded that Jane cheated on Michael the day before they got married. So who knows? Maybe Michael did. No, actually, he does react in such shock. But I was just thinking maybe subconsciously in his bones he knew. And it was the Mancini tit for tat.
That was just a long simmering one in terms of So they simmer together the emotional sort of connection. The emotional affair between the characters is clearly already happening. I want to go to the thing I wrote down in this case just because I think it's fun that go to 35 minutes and 50 seconds into this episode and you see the moment where Michael is just
I was thinking of this moment.
I've met the woman who's going to be my third wife.
Excuse me, I have to go. Someone, what is it, extraordinary? I almost said remarkable, extraordinary, just walked in. The moment was after that minute mark that you've named was Kimberly's response to Michael. She gives him a compliment. Jane's a very lucky woman. He says, well, I don't think she'd agree with you about that right now. And then she says, doesn't she say she doesn't know
then she's a darn fool.
Then she's a darn fool. And then his little smirk, that's the same smirk when he says, probably. She's not mad at me, so.
But Kimberly, Marcia Cross is a treasure of the series.
She's
and
great.
We're gonna see so many crazy things happen with Kimberly. We're gonna this is the no spoilers, everything's game, and
that break room. Oh, the way that so much is communicated between these two in locker slams and pranks in each other's locker.
Go to hell, Mancini.
Just see, yes. How many times does somebody slam a locker door and say, "Go to hell, Mancini"? All the time. It is really, really fun to see all of this these like little origin stories. Okay, Jane. Okay, let's get to Jane though too. Like hopping around, kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, go. This goes where it goes.
Jane's
nice.
parents are definitely not those people from the Super 8.
Yeah, there's a complete retcon, and we were sort of alluding to this in the main podcast, if that's what we want to call it. That like they really boxed themselves in with details that kind of didn't matter.
Yeah, like first of all,
and like flew in the face of them later. Namely, that we see the baby like hospital footage of Jane on Super 8, and we will find out. Yes, she was adopted.
Okay, well here's what I'm going to throw out there.
Please.
I think that when we see anachronistic storytelling things like this, because we know. What I want to do is challenge us to justify. So here's what I'm going to do. That is Jane's biological mother. I'm going to say they lied to her that that she used to look like that, and that now she looks like that other actress who they've been using as Jane's mom for the rest of the time. I like to think that they made it so elaborate that they're like, man. Jane, here's your mom.
I think you've blown my mind.
Either that, or they like really went out of their way to stage this whole
like evidence
where the mom didn't have. Well, I had a neighbor who lived across the hall when I was growing up in our apartment complex, and they now it's very funny to me because the kid is like 30. Oh my god! And so, but when they were expecting the baby. When the baby arrived and he was like a year, they took a series of photos of him in a box outside of the door, and then took pictures, and they told him he came from Sears. And they thought it would be really funny to stage these series of photos to later on say, or jokingly go, oh, you came from Sears, and this is the day you arrived. And I think because I did see people play a weird baby origin prank that it's not totally inconceivable.
It's not outside of the realm of possibility. we learned. Boy, they
are good parents. Jane's parents seem to be like good parents, actually.
Can we jump out to the person who in the actual world that we all share was told he was a box baby? Do you know how that turned? Did he turn out? It seems like that's a risky one.
I think he turned out fine.
Okay.
But here's the thing to me. I was also not raised to believe in Santa Claus. And there reaches a certain point where they tell you that that's a lie. And they take pictures where you're sitting on this strange man's lap. So I feel like it's about the same thing.
Oh, you're making me snort in laughter. And it's unbecoming. But what are we going to do? Yeah.
A lot of bold origin story choices.
I mean, there were a couple of things we talked about earlier that I think we should get on the record. I guess we love talking about Michael. The thing you said, the idea that Michael and Kimberly are soulmates, that this is going to bear out across the breadth of the series, that maybe that same moment at 3550 of like recognition that he gives her after she's really putting herself out there. That's the moment that sparked this grand, mutually assured destruction was where we landed, right? I don't want to
100%.
I want to let you talk about it. I'm sorry.
No, I love.
I want to hear you talk about it.
I love your insights. Yeah. I feel the same exact way. Yeah. It is when you see the two of them together, these characters. It's just, you want to see more of them together. You are seeing Michael has such it's so equal. That whatever he's got up his sleeve, she's got something coming from the other side. Like you'll never, just knowing the ways in which she gets ahead of him, like knowing that she tricks him into thinking Jane tried to kill him. That is just so. I mean, the wiggery that's coming. Knowing that Kimberly represents so many amazing wig moments, it's just like so wonderful.
I'll use the wig to pivot to the who pulled the wig off her head was Matt, and like this is the other grand theory that I wanted to get into is that we can never, ever stop thinking of one of the weirder retcons in this series. We will later find out that Matt had a journal in which he was recording the secrets, intimate, deeply incriminating secrets of everyone in the building in this journal that does not then arise until after his death, and it plays a role in the 7th season plot that diminishing returns in general. But like this day, this horrible, terrible, no good, very bad day of Matt's going from potentially a pool party
a very
to instead
casual dropping someone off
just
comforting her in her deepest, darkest moment.
About the heaviest shit, right? And that's his day. Like, I want to hang a lantern on it. When he and Rhonda are at the beach stapling stuff, man, Doug Savant has a 5 o'clock shadow at this point. He's been. And I don't think we ever see that except for maybe there's maybe a drug plot line later. That's always like a nice shorthand is like strung out. But so just to say the man looks strung out by what has happened to him in terms of his direct involvement in a couple who's losing a fetus, you know.
Well, he was freshly shaved that morning.
That's what I'm saying.
It was a clean cut. And by the end of the day, I just feel like, does your hair grow out of stress? Because if it does, I feel like Matt was like, these people are going to kill this dog. Like, they were going to kill that baby no matter what, too. Like, I just feel like Matt's,
I mean, it might have been a day. I think there was a night in between because that's when the dog ruined their apartment. Who cares?
Oh my God, I forgot about that moment.
Yeah, but no, yeah. They're definitely telegraphing in show. I do not think they intended.
No.
That Matt's diary was a classic plot convenience later on.
That's the beauty of it, is to force them to live in shackles that they retroactively put on themselves.
Yes,
and so I really do feel like there was the moment where he was walking on the beach with Jane, and you think that he's going to have a moment's rest, and then the dog takes off. That's the moment where I felt like Matt snapped. Because he was like,
that's it.
How the fuck did you do this twice? Like, the same exact way. Like, we're both here, and I know, okay, you know when you're hanging out with somebody and it's their kid, right? So, like, you've got eyes on the kid, but, like, hey, that's your kid. And so the energy is that Jane's like, well, we're both here. We're both equally taking care of this dog. And I feel like Matt's like, if they don't get rid of this dog, I'm going to end up raising this damn thing.
It's going to fall to me.
It's going to show up in my shelter and Michael's clinic eventually. And it's going to need a cauterizing glove. No, I really,
that
I feel like
a clinic dog.
I love imagining a world in which if we do any sort of spin-off fan fiction about Matt's diary, that it's like diary entry number 1. I was supposed to just drop Jane off at the hospital, but you know how her and Michael are. And then she's all, he said probably. What's probably? What am I supposed to do with probably? I swear to God, these people are so self-absorbed. They probably think I'm writing this thing just to spite them.
Well, also, to follow the theme, it has to also be like, she said probably. What does that mean? But it's a good thing he doesn't know I cheated on him the night before we got married.
I'm like, why are you telling me this?
You start yelling, like, why do you think I care about this? You've drawn me into your weird lives enough already.
To teach you a lesson, I'm writing it all down.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I love Matt.
I mean, at some point, kind of the glue that holds the show together, maybe. I don't know. I just said that. I don't know if that's the case.
No, you're absolutely right, because I feel like Matt gets the most poignant send-off of any character on the show. Like, literally, when he leaves, he's literally standing in the center of the complex, and he looks around lovingly at the complex. Yeah, I remember being like,
it's been a time.
When Joe left, we were like, Joe's not here anymore. And you're like, what? Sandy, she booked it. Rhonda got married. You're like, what's happening?
Yeah,
you never get.
There are definitely people who you don't know they're gone, and they're gone.
Yes, but Matt literally, I feel like he's going, Dear Diary, this is the last page that I'm writing in you. I looked around my dominion and I thought to myself, I really did a lot of good. I'm going to go retire to WeHo, 3 blocks away from here.
It's fine. It's
Maybe
LA.
I'll get a dog.
It's fine. It's LA. They'll never run into each other.
I'll never see them again, except maybe at Gelson's. Or Alison at an ill-conceived bachelorette that might take place. I could see that happening. Yeah, I really, the idea of his diary really originating this episode speaks strongly to me.
So that's another origin we have.
And by the way, even though we haven't met her,
yeah,
Amanda, wherever she's living, is once a month going up to San Francisco
let's
to
not
visit
forget.
her
These are things.
prison.
These are all things we intend to track
Is
through
she in
the spoilers.
Lompoc?
Lompoc is where she is.
That's what I thought. Oh, I love it. Oh, good stuff.
Yeah. I want to talk about the beach.
Please.
We said maybe this is the first beach.
I think it is.
And the beach, there will always be someone living by the beach starting fairly soon.
I think Keith has the first beach piece of property, which is so random and that's why I think they're like, oh, you need to go to Seattle because this set does not need to be happening for somebody who's only on for a couple episodes.
Yeah, right.
I think they really liked going to the beach.
No, and that's another one I want to track because, like, I'm bad at noticing. I think would be among my weaknesses, but it feels like the Mancini ends up renting because he's the original occupant.
I get very confused as to who is on the lease, but I think
it's
it is
for him
him.
And Kim. I think maybe it turns out later that Kim was the one paying and maybe was the name on the lease.
I think that's right.
100%. That's what was going on.
Many times.
For control's sake, because schemes, I'm sure. But
I'm sorry. I just had a flash forward to when Kimberly is trying to strong arm Jane into giving Michael 50% of Mancini. There's at some point some crazy thing where Kimberly's like, you need to just give it to him, Jane, or something. I'm just like, oh man, Jane, you should not be going up against this lady.
Well, it and some of those moments do play just like by force of will. She's going to impose on these people to do what she says.
It's true. I love it because it just reminds me how one point when Amanda says to Jane, "You're really bad at business." Like Jane's really bad at business.
That was a classic Amanda, sort of straight-faced, no shame, telling you how it is.
I mean, hey, what are you doing?
I think one other thing totally worth talking about is another Jane-related retcon that they're gonna ret the con really soon. She's stated to be an only child, and
yes,
lo and behold, episode 18, we meet Sydney, who will be in the mains eventually. Will play a lot. Will be wife number 2 for Michael Mancini.
Oh yes, one of the Mancinis on the mailboxes.
I mean, however we look at Sydney throughout, and I always think back on her warmly because she turned into such
Sydney.
Fun.
She's one of my faves.
She turned into such fun, but that's a win on the record. If you can blackmail Michael Mancini into marrying you because you want it against his will, and there will be multiple sort of like unwilling marriages, I think, in this series. I'm flashing forward to Coop and the marrying Lexi while being with Megan because there was a codicil. Yes, there was a codicil on her dad's will.
Oh, that's right.
That would free up $5 million that she needed to get out of the tax trouble that her terrible business daddy created that led to her arrest. Sorry guys, it's just fun for me always to like kind of remember as I go the string of just bonkers and fun details we have ahead of us. And Kimberly's appearance, I think, draws that out of me. But I don't know. I'd like to hear your reflections on the only child, her only daughter of this episode to ... Sydney needs attention.
Well, I think that it's... Oh, no, you're fine. I think that it's so perfect to me that Sydney, the idea that Sydney,
right. Yes.
Sydney spends her entire existence until the best death on the show. I'm sorry, she fucking wins in a fucking wedding dress, just careening through the like. Oh my god, but she has such a massive chip on her shoulder. She's like Marcia. It's Jane. So the fact that like there ever was this like, I like imagining that there was a narrative that they told Jane that she was an only child.
Sydney was treated as invisible for certain portions of her childhood.
Because she acts like it, actually.
Yeah,
and by the way, the funny thing, I could imagine that like everyone, the parents just thought Sydney was the ghost of a baby they'd miscarried who kept growing, and they just ignored her. And one day they had to acknowledge her because it was like literally the opposite of the Sixth Sense. She's like, I've been alive. And because if you think about it, that would make so much sense because Sydney survives despite the fact that everyone ignores her always. So I like imagining that the parents were like, oh, she's a ghost. And Jane's like, yeah, she's a ghost. And then at one day, she's just like, oh, I'm just going to move to LA so you'll stop ignoring me.
Well, and when you get her as the unloved or unlovable woman,
makes so much sense.
That like, I'm just going to go where this takes me for a minute, if you don't mind.
I love that.
I feel like Sydney will have those moments. And before we wrap up, I want to talk more about Kimberly for sure. How about that? We'll just do all the great redheads. Only just to say that there are moments where I feel like for her, she goes through and has interactions with like almost everyone on the cast, and they all tell her that they don't care about her and don't want her around, and she just keeps coming, and then ... We have an echo of that in the Brooke.
Yes.
Who that is almost explicitly the cause of her demise. Is
exactly.
that I'm sorry if I laugh, folks, because that whole episode in the future we will see Brooke dying. That two-parter is very heavy for me.
To be fair,
yeah.
we never have a moment of her not scheming. She comes in going, hi, you should have won that award. You should submit yourself. Like, she comes in full-blown Ursula the Sea Witch. Like, sign this. And dumb old Alison.
Hypnotized. Alison does what she says so much for so long.
It was so, I mean, that's the beauty of Brooke, is that, like, she was a star that burned bright. And quickly, but not for long. Like, every moment was filled with some weird. I mean, literally up until this woman's dying breath, she was like, "Hey, we're still engaged, right?" Like, damn.
That was a hell of a.
There's so much brazen.
There's a brazenness that has to come with being the unloved or unlovable woman.
Exactly.
That they display in these certain ways.
I have to say, I think maybe part of the reason I always enjoy the unlovable woman so much is, like, as you know, the whole idea of women's. If you're identifying as a woman, then you have to wait to be chosen. That is the rule. If you show any interest, then you're a hussy.
This is where Rhonda's going.
Yeah, she was chosen.
She just chosen right off the goddamn show.
Chosen, and by the way, if you don't consent to it, it kind of means more. Clearly, because you're so special that you can't see how special they're. I just feel like that's a lot.
The whole working for it. Yeah. Thing that we see over and over again.
The idea of openly expressing your wants clearly. Like, that's not a thing that anyone's doing. So I think that's why the unlovable woman is so much this character. This is a woman who, like, goes, I want to go for what I want, and you're not supposed to do that. And so that's why, like, with Sydney, that's why I think it's so wonderful that it's like her in this wedding dress, because that's all Sydney ever wanted, was to be picked for this wedding dress moment, and of course it's the thing that kills her. That said, we haven't even met her yet, and I'm so excited because things are really popping on this episode.
She annoyed me for a long time on the show, and then I came around.
Yeah,
so I want to take
that's the natural progression, I think.
There are a few ways to segue this. That's something I cared to do. We go from Michael's second wife to his third wife, or
oh my God, you're right.
Or we were talking about Brooke and her sort of like quick turnover, quick burn, constant scheming. And I think I want to maybe introduce Kimberly back into the conversation. Kimberly has entered the chat as the queen of schemes.
Oh, yeah. You're absolutely right. Because the thing is, they don't even, I'm going to say, I wouldn't even have thought of them as schemes as much as just like, because scheme also seems to pale in comparison to what she does. Do you know what I mean?
What she's doing is grander than all that.
It's very much Peter Burns level sophistication. I mean, this woman multiple times manages to convince someone that someone who's dead is alive. Actually, multiple people do that to each other. But yeah, when I think about her, the levels to which she's willing to go.
Scheme sounds nice, but what's bigger? Is it a plot?
I mean, almost like a mind control. Is that a I don't even know.
Cult leader?
Cult?
I mean, we'll see that in another way, but yeah.
It's, you know what, maybe it's just the level of sophistication that she brings to the schemery is very impressive to me.
Here's a good way to talk about Kimberly, I think.
I love her.
Meeting her now and looking forward to her whole arc, she will actually blow up the building, and show up later to apologize for it as if it was like,
I mean, the cojones.
and dying, coming back to life, which is of course the soap trope that we all love.
Steals Joe's baby.
Yeah, so what is the moment? When we look forward at the arc of Kimberly all the way to her death after beating cancer, what's your favorite? What do you think is, or maybe the quintessential, if you will, Kimberly plotting, Kimberly active mind control?
I would have to say, it's when she is a patient for a mental health issue and manages to snag herself a radio spot in which she's actively telling people what to do. Like her imagine that you have blown up a building and you were a doctor, and then somehow your recovery goes so great that they're like, you know what, we need to get this lady on the air. She needs to be influencing minds and getting into people's heads. And I thought it was just like, that is the beauty of Kimberly, is that she's so smart that like you'll send her to summer school, by the end she's teaching the class and you're like, what is even happening? Her ambition is very Amanda-like, which is why I think I'm so impressed with her always.
No, that's beautifully put. I think that I like the way you can pull the scope out and just like objectively that is sort of like, did she reach her apotheosis? Was she ultimate Kimberly if the woman who wants to control the minds is usually literally given a broadcast? She's casting broadly about what one should do in their love life.
They once locked her away to take away her voice and and she literally got on the air.
I think that from a almost like Batman-like view or something.
I love that.
That the fact that she, for a short while, is basically in charge of an asylum.
Yes.
Similar, like if you translate that to a real world news story, that'll really stop you in your tracks. Almost more than woman blows up building is mental patient runs asylum while, and I don't know if I don't think, does any of this get mental healthy? I mean, like they literally, that's the thing on this show is like a terrible DID representation, you know. You mean
is the irony of the criminals being the ones doing the accusing falling on me? Do we think this is hyperbolic in this
Lisa,
storytelling?
Must you always get to the heart of the unfortunate real world parallels?
But that's also why I love it.
Easy to see from that perspective. I feel like we did it, guys.
I feel like we did it a
Did we cover all stuff?
You guys said something about Alison.
Oh, I mean, I guess just that, like, the idea of them laying down tracks for her future revealed trauma of childhood. This
By
is
the way,
another step on that path.
Yes, and then the thing about Alison that's interesting is I feel like her backstory is consistent throughout. Hers is one of the few characters where they really were just like, I mean, even if they weren't gearing up for that reveal, they never closed the door on it. And they kind of like, I do have to say that like the way that they breadcrumbed out, like dad was a philanderer. Oh, I was like, this is weird because it all does she's very consistent throughout,
you can build in the stuff also about how she was the people pleasing.
It all makes sense.
Goody two shoes. That all plugs in.
No, it makes a lot of sense.
It's one of the like. There's a way. For some reason, I think of like Neil Gaiman's like the guy who did the Sandman. Like that way that like you could see someone planting breadcrumbs that almost certainly they couldn't have the final vision, but they did such a good job opening things up that they could get there. I don't know if that'll make sense to anybody, and we can talk examples in a bonus. If you care to listen to me rant about comic books briefly, but I don't think they had Alison in the basement with a train set being diddled by her dad, who was mad because her mom wasn't giving it up. This woman whom we now know mastectomy affected her self-image.
Oh my gosh,
it's really grimy.
It really and it all kind of lines up. Well, I'm just saying like they never.
They opened it up
choices,
nicely.
Yeah, and they never negate any of that.
Yeah.
It's
it's beautifully done in that
that's
regard.
It's weird that it like all does and Billy's the same way. Like I didn't realize how like we said before these early episodes. I'm like, he's such a liar. He just lies, and then Billy and Alison, definitely were.
That's another soulmate, mutually assured destruction situation, really.
Oh, when you said death by 1,000 cuts with Alison getting you back. I was like, that's her superpower. She really, it's just the way that she demoralizes that man over the course of their entire relationship to the point where like, even though they're not in a relationship because she's his freaking wife's stepmom, she's still involved in his relationship with his wife. It's like he can never break free from her. It's he gets it, and he deserves it. Now that I'm looking back at this, I'm like, Exhibit A.
The opening shots in that duel were all Billy's for a minute. For a minute yet.
Yeah.
Which leads me to, I think, the thing that we had fun talking about this earlier. Another grand narrative you could look at the show surrounds Alison's issue in this episode, which are her breasts.
Yes.
I'll lead in, and I want you to take over or take it wherever the heck it should go. But like, we were clowning around saying like, okay, no wonder Alison takes it out on Billy in such grand ways in the future. Like something may be happening with her on a subconscious, almost autonomic level. Like the theory, in short, is when Billy's around, Alison's tits starts aching.
As a direct result from that elbow at the comedy club.
There's the elbow at the comedy club. Oh, there is his boundary bashing, bra, clowning behavior. She's feeling it in her body around this fucking guy, but he's also always around, and her own sort of like seeking her own self-destruction, because mutually assured destruction, you signed up for it, we're both going down in this.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, I went off on a little bit.
No, please, but like, please go on.
Yeah, balls pass to you.
Well, no, please keep going because I want to know where to pick up.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry.
That's okay.
Was that literally mid-thought?
Well, no, I think it might have been mid-thought. Were you saying that you think that
Alison is also drawn to Billy for these reasons, for the same reasons of her damage. She's her missing puzzle piece is a fucking liar, entitled son of a bitch.
Has no money.
Actively
has no job,
angry
lying.
At boundaries. Like, she put a lock on her door, and it's like she did something to him. He should have access to her room.
It's absolutely insane. Well, to me, it's hey, let's get into it if we're getting into it. Think about the guys that she dates aside from Billy tend to be older, a little more established.
You
They're
can say
usually
that.
her
She
professional.
marries fucking Haley.
She is usually, if it's in a professional setting, she is either their subordinate or they are her client. So in some way, she's like below them. Billy, and I think that's her thing, being drawn to the dad. You know, trying to recreate and maybe whatever. But the thing about Billy is he is the exact opposite. He is the most a boy. Like, he's all the worst quality. She always ends up with these guys who I think have like the worst qualities of like what she's looking like for in a father figure. And Billy represents all of the worst immature qualities of like a teenage boy. Because he's constantly pouting.
Oh, he
just
sulks.
like stomps around. He's literally bringing the neighbor boy into the laundry room to make fun of her underwear.
Yes to all of it.
And so, but I do think she's drawn to that because it is like this very immature relationship.
Yeah. No, it's
also she'll always be better than him if he's less mature than her, so she can always punish him for it. I've met those people.
Wow. Yeah. Pretty goddamn deep.
Hey, it's Melrose Place.
No,
It's
I'm marveling, and I think we've done it now.
I think so.
But I'm briefly marveling at that there is sort of this cogent narrative.
Yeah.
We stumble across these, and I my hat's off to the creators of the show. Sometimes we're critical of them. I'm critical of them. Hats off that this is a thing that we can dive into, and it it works. It works. I think it works.
It's very fun.
What else is working is a partnership with you, because you are such a fantastic co-host. I love doing this. What's working is the participation and interest of our audience. Thank you for listening. And with that, be back in a week, I guess, with the next episode. But for now, just cheers to you, Lisa. And also, never forget that Matt is writing all of this down. Hey there, Melrose Maniacs. If you've made it this far into the podcast, we love you. On behalf of the whole team, we are taking a bit of a break, but we'll be back for further explorations of Melrose Place and the Melrose televisual multiverse. Cheers!
You're right. This is madness.